We learned this week more of the measure of the man upon whom the citizens of the most advanced civilization ever gathered beneath one flag is relying for guidance about how best to maintain their physical and mental equilibrium.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
We learned, yes, that US Secretary of Health and celebrity whale-beheading bear corpse dumper Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had given further thought as to how his fellow Americans might aspire to be as fit, sane, and above all, normal as Kennedy himself very obviously is. We learned this from a video of himself that RFK Jr. released in the company of his fellow paragon of corporeal and indeed moral fortitude, the unenjoyable singer Kid Rock. That is the audio, specifically one of Kid Rock's dreary thrashes, much beloved of 45-year-old men in three-quarter length shorts. The video we would earnestly counsel against looking up or indeed imagining in any great detail, consisting as it does of Messrs Kennedy and Rock working sweatily out together before taking a sauna and a swim, hey, we're not judging, and concluding with an entreaty to drink raw milk. Which we learned is a key plank of Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again campaign, which we learned is going just tremendously well, even, you might say, legendarily.
Health officials in New Mexico are warning the public against consuming raw milk after a newborn died from a listeria infection earlier this month.
Raw milk that was sold from a farm in Central Florida has made 21 people sick.
And the Florida Department of Health says 6 of those people who were sick were children.
Hamilton County Health Department warning about illnesses related to consumption of raw milk. They say that several children are currently in the hospital in Hamilton County due to E. coli in that milk.
An utter disgrace, etc.? Is that anything? But
tears on my pillow.
Sticking with the subject of advocates of alternative views on health who are themselves inadvertent warnings against believing a single word they say about anything, we learned that we had not, despite our ardent wishes, heard the last of this guy.
No, they're not lumpy pillows. That's not what they call on. Okay? When you say lumpy pillows, now you're an You got that? You're an
That guy being Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow, anti-vax conspiracy weirdo and all-round thundering dingbat who is seeking the Republican nomination to become the next governor of Minnesota, an obviously absurd notion as the very thought of the stolid, rock-ribbed citizens of the North Star State deciding to install in the governor's residence in St. Paul some hopelessly unqualified, bloviating yahoo they've seen on television is obviously preposterous.
This time, Jesse the Body Ventura's fight was not fixed from the beginning. No script, and he still won. He shocked the world! The former professional wrestler, master of a pseudo-sport he describes as ballet with violence, is now the governor-elect of Minnesota.
Ah well, let us nevertheless have the state song of Minnesota, which both enjoins fealty to Minnesota and describes its weather for like 9 months out of every 12.
Minnesota, hail to thee.
Hail Minnesota, you see what we did there. Before we provide some context, we are of course here considering a subject pertaining to the office of governor, which we cannot properly do without acknowledging the outstanding pertinent adjective.
Gubernatorial.
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 Gubernatorial. Yeah.
Gubernatorial.
That's a good word.
Part of my vocabulary.
I'll use that, yeah.
As soon as possible.
Gubernatorial. Never gets old. We learned, yes, that this particular windmill tilt was the latest expression of the wearisome fact that being CEO of a moderately successful bedding company is not sufficient for Mike Lindell. And we learned that even if this endeavour doesn't make Lindell governor, it may make him a successful, or at least less unsuccessful, author. We learned that since Lindell launched his campaign, that copies of his 2019 memoir, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, that is the actual title, have been veritably flying off the shelves. We learned, however, that they were being purchased in the main largely by Mike Lindell.
I do want to give you an opportunity to speak to a headline, though. Your campaign took in more than $350,000 in contributions in just under a month, but filings show your campaign spent more than half of that money on your own self-published memoir. Explain to people why buy all those books? Is that a wise use of campaign spending?
We learned shortly after this excellent question had been put that Lindell did not intend to avail himself of the short answer, i.e.
no,
but of a somewhat longer, if somewhat less comprehensible one.
Yeah, we got them for a very good price from My Pillow, employee-owned company. That's not my benefit, that's not them. And what it is, and what you can do instead of paying money for flyers and stuff, we had to go around and do debates for about a month and a half, these debates, and we gave out the books.
He may actually still be going, haven't looked in for a few days, but we learned closer to where this week's monologue was composed and recorded. Let's have some silly Italian music. That location being the Winter Olympic city of Milan, that a terrible blow had been struck against, a dismal stain smeared upon the reputations of the international press pack covering events, especially the Australian reporters. We learned this from conclusions widely and unfairly drawn from this outside broadcast, to the effect that the hack in question may have been enjoying the offerings in the hospitality suite.
Literally, the price of coffee over here is actually fine. It's more the price of coffee in the US that we are going to have to get used to. I'm not sure about the iguanas.
We learned therefrom that people really do have an extremely limited understanding of how cold and altitude can affect human speech, and still less appreciation of the rigorous regime of abstemiousness that all broadcast journalists, and especially the Australian reporters, commit to when representing their employers abroad. For Monocle Radio, I'm Mandrew Uller.